So, defensive shooting and fundamentals. Defensive shooting versus marksmanship shooting. So what actually is that? Well, we can make it easy and call it the difference between tactical shooting and marksmanship shooting. Defensive shooting, tactical shooting, kind of fits within the same pigeonhole. Marksmanship shooting is its own discipline altogether. With marksmanship, you will have the traditional NRA style marksmanship shooting, trying to shoot the same hole over and over and over again. And it is its own discipline, and it's very, very difficult. Defensive shooting or tactical shooting is more of a personal defense, gunfighting. You're not going to be standing up straight in a gunfight as you would if you were doing the marksmanship shooting. You're going to be set more into a crouch. You're going to want to make yourself a smaller target. When you go to actually shoot, you're going to have your finger indexed, as we do all the time, because our only best safety is right between our ears and making sure that our finger isn't on the trigger. So you're going to have your finger indexed. When you do tactical style or defensive shooting, it's more of a point shoot. You're using that index finger just like you would if you're pointing at something. We as humans have the innate ability to be able to not even have to look at an object to be able to point directly at it. Subsequently, the same thing goes when you're indexing your finger and you're holding your pistol. You don't necessarily have to be looking directly at it to be able to hit your target. We instinctively know where we are pointing our finger. The other term is instinctive shooting, point shooting. Using that finger as a guide on the side of the slide, coming out quickly, and getting on a target without even having to focus on your sights. So there's a big difference between defensive shooting and marksmanship. Hopefully as a CCW carrier, you're going to be working on your defensive shooting tactics. You're going to be learning how to do muscle memory. You're going to have to work on developing a proper grip just out of instinctual grip. You're not necessarily aligning. You're just coming out with shooting on the index finger. So, muscle memory. What is muscle memory? We hear this term all the time. It's not necessarily a muscle memory that actually does it. It's kind of a misused term. However, it is through repetition over and over and over and over of doing that same exact muscle movement to be able to establish doing something without even thinking about it. Most of your reality combat training, your martial arts training, all of that is instinctive. When you've been practicing these moves for years and years, it just becomes automatic natural instinct for your hands to come up and perform a block. You do it without even thinking about it, just because of the multiple repetition. The experts say it takes at least 5,000 repetitions before you start to develop the muscle memory. We're going to translate that into doing your draw stroke. 5,000 times of learning how to grab that pistol high up onto the back strap. You're going to get that hand, that support hand up onto your chest. These are things that you're doing without even thinking about it as you're coming out on your draw stroke over and over. How do we do that? Most of us have the big long wardrobe mirror somewhere in our house, whether it's the back of the closet, the back of a door, somewhere. The modern day cell phone is a great tool as well. You can set that up and you can videotape yourself and watch yourself and see how your muscle movement is actually coming together. The more that you practice and repeat these methods correctly is going to instill what they call muscle memory. A lot of people have heard the expression, practice makes perfect. I disagree. Perfect practice makes perfect. Because if I practice the same bad habits over and over and over again, I'm not going to have anything but bad habits. But if I practice perfect habits over and over, I'm going to have a perfected draw stroke or perfected movement that you desired. Proper grip is one of those things that you're going to have to develop over time to grab. And instinctually, learning how to grab and grip up onto your pistol. You're going to grab that pistol high up on the back strap. What do we mean by high up on the back strap? Right here you'll see what they call the little beaver tail. That web of your hand has to go right up into, high up on the back strap, into that beaver tail. Establishing a good firm grip, indexing your finger, wrapping your thumb around. Your support hand, as your support hand is coming together with it, you're bringing these two hands together and rotating forward on it. A lot of times you'll have a misalignment on your grip. You'll see that open space. We don't want that open space. We're going to cover that a lot more in depth when we go into tips and drills on the range. But you're going to draw that pistol out. It's going to come out at a cant so you're not having the action get caught up into your garment. The two hands are going to come together. They're going to kind of rotate forward. The thumbs kind of stack up on each other. I use the analogy, the Bob Marley song, one thumb. So when you're looking down your hand, all you're seeing is one thumb. The analogy that I use, and like I said, we'll come into this more on tips and drills, is making the shadow puppet. When we were kids, we made the shadow puppet. But you put the two thumbs together. When you put those two thumbs together, your grip hand and your support hand come right together. And you can practice doing that at home simply by making the shadow puppet and learning how to establish your proper grip. We also want to talk about a neutral shooting platform. So once again, later on in tips and drills, we're going to expand on this a whole lot more and bring it to life a little bit better. But the long and the short of it is that you want to find yourself into what they call a sports position. A sports position, whether you're playing basketball and you're getting ready to do that free throw, I missed. Or you're batting, or you're playing football as a linebacker. It's all the same position. You get your head, shoulders, knees and toes, knees and toes, knees and toes, all in the same line. Slight bend in your knees are right over your toes, slight bend in your hips, getting yourself into kind of a squatted position to where you're presenting a smaller target. And you're coming out into a shooting position. We call it a sports position. Guess what? Shooting is a sport. So it makes sense to get yourself into a neutral sports position. Aligning the muzzle to the target. Now we kind of talked about that just a little bit ago, where humans have an innate ability to be able to point their finger without even looking at it and being on it. When you're doing that, you're grabbing that pistol, you're indexing that finger, and like I said, it's as simple as pointing your finger. Wherever you're pointing that finger is where that muzzle is actually going to align onto the target. That's what we call point style shooting, or instinctive or defensive shooting. A flash sight picture. Okay, so we'll talk about sight picture, sight alignment, and a sight picture. We're going to come into a little more in depth on a different slide. It gives it a whole lot better idea. Tips and drills on the range, we actually go through it. My partner Jeff made the cool little tool to be able to help show the alignment. Precise sight alignment is going to be more like your marksmanship style, where you are taking your time, breathing, utilizing your breathing, aligning your sights, getting your sight picture, and taking it all very slowly, very methodically to try and achieve making that one hole, overlapping it over and over with that single shot, same place. Flash sight picture is, like we said, instinctive. It comes up, it's just there, bam. Much like the martial artist who learns how to put his hands up just instinctively. We're also going to talk about trigger control. Trigger control is going to be done mainly the placement of your finger. So if you take a look at your finger, you'll see the little swirls on your fingerprint. The smallest, tightest swirl on that fingerprint, you're going to want right in the center of that trigger. That's what's going to allow to get a smooth, clean, straight press of that trigger. If you have too much finger in that trigger well, and you go to pull that trigger, as I pull the trigger, did you see the barrel move? That's going to translate to the same thing when you're pointing down range. When you're pointing down range, you have too much finger in there, and you pull the trigger, it's going to move off to the right side. If you're not putting enough finger on that trigger, you're just catching just the edge of it, you're going to see that trigger, the barrel move off to the left. So as you're shooting and you're starting to see everything is all pretty much lined up, it's just all off to the left-hand side. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at somebody and go, where are you putting your finger on the trigger? Because that's going to dictate a big portion of your right and left when you go to shoot. So, once again, too much finger, it's pulling it to the right. Not enough finger, it's going to push them off to the left. When you get that sweet spot on the fingertip, right on the trigger, it's not going to move at all. It's just going to stay right in that same spot. To help train on that finger is what we call the nickel drill. With the Glocks, it's really easy to do it because you got a nice big flat surface. You simply place the nickel right on top of the slide, right in front of that front sight. And then you're going to bring that pistol up nice and slow, and then you're going to dry fire it. And when you dry fire, you'll see if I don't have enough finger in there and it's off to the right, that nickel's going to drop. Opposite and equal reaction. You've got too much finger in there and you go to pull that trigger, that nickel's going to fall off. If you are anticipating the shot means you're anticipating the recoil that's coming from that pistol when you pull that trigger. So a lot of people have a tendency of anticipating and dipping that front end of the pistol to try and compensate for the recoil of the pistol coming back up. When you practice your dry firing, practice it with the nickel drill. It's cheap, 5 cents. However, there are lots of different dry fire tools out there. And we'll come up on that in a minute. But as you're practicing the nickel drill, you keep your hand high up on that back strap, establishing that good grip. You're getting yourself a good sight picture. You're using your breathing. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Once again, Mr. Miyagi, in through the nose, Daniel-san, out through the mouth. Breath control, trigger control, follow through, sear reset. So when it comes to sear reset, we demonstrate that in tips and drills with an actual firearm, and we explain it. You can actually hear the audible click. Dry fire, practice. You should be shooting 25% live fire, 75% dry fire. A lot of people are going to go, what? Yeah. So I have a friend of mine. He's a competitive shooter. I went to go see him compete. Afterwards, I went to the hotel where he was staying. As I'm walking down the hallway of the Motel Super 8, whatever it was, I'm hearing, as I'm walking down the hallway, click, 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 click. As I walk all the way down the hallway, I'm consistently hearing this. When these guys get done shooting thousands of rounds in a day, they go back to the hotel, and guess what they're doing? They're dry firing. They're not drinking with their buddies. They're actually in their room, looking at themselves in the mirror, doing their presentation, and they're dry firing. Click, click. We're going to get into dry firing into the next section here, and we'll talk about that a whole lot more. So we were talking about sight alignment, sight picture, and we're going to talk about something that you're going to hear called equal height, equal light. What does that actually mean? When you're looking at your sights and you have your sights lined up, your front sight, the top of your front sight, should be directly in line with the top of your rear sight, equal height. And then you're going to have a little bit of light leaking through each side of that front sight post to the rear sight. You want equal amount of light coming through on each side. If all you have is just light coming through on the left side of the gun, guess where all your rounds are going? Off to the right-hand side. Subsequently, if it does it the opposite way, they're all going off to the other side. So you want equal height, equal light. That's going to give you a proper sight alignment onto your target. We were just talking about your finger placement, and it's a great illustration of your finger placement. Right in the center of your fingerprint tab is going to be directly in the center of that trigger as you press. If you've got too much finger, you can see everything goes off to the left. Not enough, it's going to go off to the right. I think we beat that horse up pretty good. So, it's all about accuracy. Only hits count. The only thing worse than a miss is a slow miss. Just because you get your gun out and you get a shot off doesn't mean you hit your target. You could actually be slower, but more deliberate and more precise in your aiming to get the hit on target than somebody who just willy-nilly brings it out and shoots one past your ear. So accuracy is important. It's very important. If you're not accurate, you're not going to hit your target. That's the reason we say, train, 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 train. Continuously train. So work on your muscle memory. Work on your finger placement, work on your proper grip, work on your sight alignment and your sight picture. These are all things that are going to incorporate your skills into one smooth, fluid motion. And the more that you do it, the more natural it becomes, the more confident you become, and the more competent you become with your firearm. We were talking about dry firing. Dry firing, like we said, you should be doing this 75% of your time. The great thing about it is in tips and drills, we kind of showed you where we live. We live up in the mountains. In the wintertime, it gets cold. Don't really feel like going out to the range when it's 32 degrees or lower. Or the other end of the spectrum, I don't really feel like going out to the range when it's 110 degrees either. So there's nothing wrong with dry firing in the comfort of your nice warm robe and your fuzzy slippers and a cup of coffee while you're dry firing in your house. The one thing that I can't stress enough, please make sure that your ammunition is separate from your firearm when you dry fire. Clear your firearm in a completely separate room. Leave your ammunition in a completely separate room. Then take your cleared firearm to another location in the house that you want to do your dry fire, but never, ever, ever put the two together. Could be catastrophic, could be lethal. How many times have we heard the story of the guy who was cleaning his gun and shot himself when he was cleaning his gun? Well, I thought it was empty. You have to make sure it's empty before you start your dry firing process. Now, with the dry firing, there are lots of different tools out there. There are a lot of great tools out there. There is everything from the iTarget Pro to the dryfire.com. There's a million and one products. When you start looking at the cost of ammunition, your average box of ammunition is going to cost you somewhere between $20 and $40 a box, depending on the caliber that you're shooting. How long is it going to take to go out to the range and go through a couple of boxes while you're out shooting on the range? Most of us, 1 or 2 boxes isn't hard to get through. You're looking at $80, comparatively anywhere from $60 to $80 just for 2 boxes of ammo. The cost of a dry firing system is anywhere from $60 to $100. There are some that go considerably more expensive, but they're worth it. You're not going to get a Mercedes-Benz and the quality of a Mercedes-Benz for the same price you're going to get for a Honda Accord or a Ford Festiva. You're going to get what you pay for. So the point is, get yourself a training aid. It's a lot cheaper to do your dry firing at your house and learn. You'll be amazed at how much you'll see the change and the difference in your actual live fire shooting. You'll also find out how your bad habits come into play with using the dry firing systems at home. You'll see that you're anticipating, because as you're using the laser dry fire systems, you'll see that laser dip just a little bit right before you pull the trigger. Didn't know I was anticipating. These are things that you're going to pick up and that you're going to learn at home that you're never going to see out on the range. So it's extremely beneficial for you. My partner Jeff tells a story about how he was shooting at an expert level, qualifications for years. And when he started dry firing, he finally realized, I'm actually dipping. Well, he had learned over the years how to be able to compensate for that dip without even realizing that he did it. But once that he brought home the dry firing system and realized that's where one of his bad habits he developed was, He corrected it in a matter of about 10 minutes. Once again, he's been doing it for years, never even knew he was doing it. 10 minutes with the dry firing system at home, found a habit that he had no idea that he even had, was able to correct it. Made him an even better shot. Using these training aids are crucial. Like I said, you're not having to go out when it's cold. You're not having to go out when it's hot. You got the warmth and the comfort of the home. You can even keep an eye on the Ohio State football game as you're doing your dry firing. Can't do that on the range. Sorry, Michigan fan. So, transitioning from dry fire to live fire. As you develop and practice these skills, we've said before, these skills are perishable. If you don't use it, you're going to lose it. So it is important to continuously practice. Once you take those skills and then you transition out to the live range, you incorporate all these things that you learned while you were doing your dry firing. I guarantee you're going to see a marked change and a big improvement in your live fire shooting. Once again, always consult with an approved instructor. Been doing this for many, many years. My partners and I have been doing this for many, many years. Collectively, we've got well over 100 years of experience between the three of us. We still go and find certified instructors to help us because we do start to develop bad habits on our own. I guarantee you, no matter who you are going to benefit from getting with a certified instructor. Even certified instructors like myself need other certified instructors to help me to be able to continue killing my bad habits and keeping up with my skills. So, as you do the dry firing, you transition to your live fire. Don't feel bashful one bit about finding a certified instructor to give you an evaluation. It's relatively cheap to get an hour with an instructor, and you'd be amazed at what you can walk away with. Take your time and be safe. The gunfight rule number 25, you can't miss fast enough to win. Got to be able to practice. Got to be able to keep your skills up. I'm going to preface this video with a little bit of language. For those of you that are offended, turn it down if you got the little ones at home. But watch the video.
I just fucking shot myself.
So why'd that happen? Well, numerous reasons. And first off, I'm going to say this gentleman is a YouTube content creator. He actually had the guts and the intestinal fortitude to put a bad day on video and put it out there for everybody to see. What could he have done differently? Well, could have done it with a dry fire system where you have that laser in there and worked on it. Could have worked on it with an empty weapon. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. Trying to get his hand on that trigger faster than what he was supposed to allowed him to discharge into his leg before he even got up on target. Now, like I said, the guy does a really good job, and good for him for putting it back out there, and we appreciating him putting it back out there for everybody to learn from his mistakes. Not all of us have the courage to do that, but he did. Do it with an empty gun. Do it with the dry fire system. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. Learn how to do it slow and to where you can't miss when you're doing it fast. We'll move on from that. Being former law enforcement, my partners and I, we like to pick on the cops. Most of the cops, we all get complacent. We think we make our living with a gun. We handle a gun every day. We're professionals with the guns, and we know exactly how to handle guns. Well, I think this next video will demonstrate, doesn't matter who you are, if you're not following the basic safety rules every single time, bad things can happen. Take a look.
I have a gun on my side right here. Just this week, at the beginning of the week, a young boy, not even 16 years old, was killed because he was playing with a gun. And see, this is an unloaded gun. Right here, Mr. Combs. No, empty weapon. Empty weapon. This is a Glock 40. 50 Cent, Too Short, all of them talk about Glock 40. Okay, I'm the only one in this room professional enough that I know of to carry this Glock 40. I'm the only one. Right? No, all right. Is everybody all right? You all right? Nah, that's it. Walk. I got it. Yeah, I had an AP. Yeah, I'm here. Listen up, guys. But listen up. And I made a mistake. So listen to me. Guys, listen to me. Yeah, listen to me. See that how the accident happened? It can happen to you and you can be blown away. Okay? So guys, never play with guns. See how accidents happen? They happen. Okay, now I'll probably never ever be able to show guns again. But Brian, bring that other gun out, Brian. Yeah. Brian. Yeah, Brian, keep that right there. Keep that right there. Brian. I think he called it right now. Bring that other gun out. Hey, see this gun right here, guys? Listen. See this gun? Look. Hey, hold on. It's empty. It's an empty weapon, guys. Don't listen. Robin. Hey, Robin, just keep my stuff.
Wow. So why did that happen? Well, we just got done talking about when we're doing our dry firing, how important it is to make sure you're clearing your firearm prior to going out and practicing. We talked about how more common than not, people that are cleaning their guns accidentally wind up shooting themselves. So what was it that he did? He racked the slide open. He checked it. He even walked over to his partner. Check my gun. Partner checked the gun. And then he hit that slide release. Chink. But the problem with it was he had the magazine still inside the gun when he did it. And as you saw, it chambered around. So no, the gun was not clear. You need to remove that magazine. You need to rack that slide open, lock it back, visually inspect that chamber that it's empty. Physically put your pinky in there and make sure that that is empty. Before you let that slide go home, make sure that magazine is not inserted when you do that. The other thing is, never put your finger on the trigger until you're ready to shoot. Well, what did he do? Bang. Had the bad day, didn't he? So it's brutally important to make sure that when you're clearing your weapon, you are clearing it. He did make the extra step of having somebody else say that it was clear. However, that person checking it should have realized the magazine was in there too. They didn't. That's why it happened. This is a federal agent, DEA, I believe, and still made this mistake because we get complacent, because we get comfortable, because we think we know what we're doing. If you're not following the basic safety rules anytime, every time, all the time, you run the risk of having a bad day. Don't have the bad day.